My name is p.arora and I represent the Dairy Industry Expo, which is an annual exhibition and conference for the dairy industry in India. As per the present situation, we can't predict when we will be meeting next for an offline event. So we, along with our partners, thought of meeting you all here virtually. So in this session with our expert panelist, we will be discussing the opportunities for Indian dairy industry in the post-COVID-19 era. So now let me just introduce my panelists. So my first panelist is Mr. R.S. Dixit. Mr. Radhey Shyam Dixit is a veteran in the Indian dairy industry with over 3 decades of experience. Belonging to a humble farming family, he has dedicated his life to harnessing the power of the dairy farmers. He has created the brand Ananda and came a very long way from a small outlet in 1989 to an autonomous private body with an annual turnover of INR 2000 crores. My next panelist is Mr. Rajesh Lele. He is a dairy technologist with 36 years of experience in the dairy industry. He has worked with various dairy companies in Maharashtra, and presently he is the procurement head for Prabhat Dairy, which is a Lactalis Group company. My next panelist is Mr. Nitin Mane. He is a feed engineer from Swiss Institute of Feed Technology. He is a managing partner for Hindustan Feeds and vice chairman for Baramati Cattle Feeds, which are the biggest cattle feed producers in Maharashtra. My next panelist is Dr. Torsten Hemme. Torsten is the CEO of IFCN Dairy Research Center based in Kiel and has 2 decades of experience in monitoring the global dairy dynamics. So there is another panelist who will be joining us soon, maybe in next 5 minutes or so. He's Mr. Vishvas Chitale. Dairy farming can convert into an industry and need not restrict to small units in villages. It is more than a belief for Mr. Vishvas Chitale, who is the 3rd generation in the Chitale group. From RFID's usage, business intelligence, mobile technology, cloud computing, he has used everything to bring a paradigm shift in the way dairy farming is done in India. His contribution of 3 decades in the family business has taken the group to the new heights. And now let me welcome Mr. Kuldeep Sharma, who will be the moderator for the session. And I'm sure a lot of you would already know him, but still I would try to introduce him in brief. He's a dairy technologist from NDRI Karnal and an MBA with specialization in marketing and finance, who founded Suruchi Consultants in 1990. In its journey spanning over 3 decades now, he has been a part of many national and international projects related to the dairy sector. And under his leadership, the firm has also set up a virtual incubator for the dairy industry in Noida, which is called Entrepreneurship and Technology Development Center. And lastly, it is Mr. Anand Gorad, who is the co-host for the session. He represents ADFI Forum and Dairy Technologist Forum. He is also the secretary for Milk Producers Cooperative Society, and he is the regional associate for our annual events. So over to you, Kuldeep, sir.
Thank you very much for a brief introduction. And first of all, I would like to give a very warm welcome to all the esteemed panelists and audience from different parts of the country as well as from outside the country. Very quickly, because all of us, there has been a slight delay due to some technical hit, but we will try to cover that up. And we all are very eager to listen to our panelists, but just to set the context, I will take only 5 minutes, where I would like to set the context in terms of where do we stand today. So if you look at Indian dairy sector, then it's passing through a very critical phase currently, as all of you know, because the whole country is under lockdown. And this is an unprecedented situation and very difficult to be comprehended by the existing players. Nobody ever thought of that such kind of situation might occur. There have been a lot of challenges, right from the farmers, let's say even from the animal farmers, feed, fodder, consumer, processors, everyone. So when we look at dairy, So it's an integral part of Indian farmers' income, and almost half of the income of a farmer in India, let's say if it is from crop, then around 12 to 15% is coming from dairy. But when we look at this 12 to 15% income, then in last so many years, what we have been finding that the growth in dairy income is more than 15%, while through crops, they are simply getting it to the tune of 2 to 3% only. So research very clearly suggests that reduction in poverty or increase in income of farmer in India is just not possible without giving due consideration to the livestock as such or to the dairy business as such. Now, when we look at the other side, then we see that most of the time, these farmers, there is an unorganized sector which is almost 2/3 of the size of the total surplus milk which is coming to the market, and most of these this milk goes to, let's say, restaurant, tea shops, sweet makers. Due to lockdown, that is also completely closed. So if we look at the way milk getting disposed by most of these farmers, let's say from the unorganized sector, we find that they are in very, very deep trouble. Over and above these kind of things, over and above, let's say, the market dynamics, we are also finding that the farmers are facing issues related to the inputs, let's say feed, fodder, the movement, vaccine, semen, those kind of things. And even the workers are not there on the ground, just because they are quite apprehensive about the current situation. And there is no, as on date, there is nothing like a direct compensation to them or some insurance cover where they might be feeling a little bit motivated or comfortable. Though some dairies are giving some compensation or incentive for the people, but it's really a very challenging time, to keep everyone motivated in the value chain. Now, what is to be done with the excess milk? So there has been a large quantity of milk getting converted into dairy commodities, as we were discussing in the morning. Let's say close to 700 metric ton per day of powder is getting manufactured, let's say in Maharashtra or Western India alone. But if I look at the total Indian scenario, this number might be much more than, much higher, maybe 2,000 to 2,500 metric ton kind of thing of production per day. And but the bigger issue is that, number one, the complete staff is not available. You can run factories only with the staff which you can keep inside and manage them with social distancing and other things. And the second most important thing is that where to get the working capital, at least at the level of processors, where to keep this particular material. These are quite a bit of new kind of challenges which our industry is facing. Now, if we look at the whole journey, so instead of talking of April 2020, if I look at April 2019, that is just a year back, then that was the time when India was seeing a different kind of dynamics, where we were finding that the milk was getting short. And to surprise of all, since last summers, I think April or May, the milk prices never come down. And it was only, somewhere in this February that we started to see some kind of movement of prices dropping down. And that was the time when people started to, convert that into powder and other commodities. The second most important thing is that it has been quite a roller coaster kind of a thing for dairy. So 22nd of March or 25th of March, this lockdown was just, a kind of happening at that particular moment. But if we look very deeply, we will find, so last year, in September, we were talking about that there should not be any import under RCEP and all that. While in January itself, we started to talk about that we don't have any stocks. There should be imports at a lower rates. The industry, the way things were moving, and particularly in February when we started to see that, yes, milk inflow is increasing, the industry is getting stabilized, the powder was getting good, the commodities were getting good price, then this COVID came. So now, at this particular point, we have a couple of questions, to be answered, for which we better thought that we should talk to our panelists and experts who are there in the industry. Now, the key issue is that what is to be done with the excess milk. Now, how the powder and ghee, which you are converting right now in large quantum, will be sold later on. Who will be funding for it, let's say the working capital part, what will happen to the milk production post COVID, because a large number of farmers have reduced the feed content or the quality of feed for the animals, so there are chances that milk production may go low. What will happen at that time? How the commodity market would be there, and what about, let us say, the impact of poor feeding or poor health support or poor breeding support at this moment on the future of dairy industry. So with all these kind of issues put together, I would like to request Dixit ji, or I think Prachi, you may hand over to Dixit ji, and he may start the session. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And we have also been joined by Mr. Chitale.
Okay, welcome, sir. Yeah.
Sir, if you may start.
Good afternoon. Namaste. Should I share my presentation?
Yes, sir.
So as Kuldeep ji has defined very well, so my topic is about opportunities about dairy industry after COVID-19. So this is the India produced about 176.3 million tons milk, 17-18. These all data you know very well. India constitutes 17% of world milk production, and milk production grew annually at the rate of 6.4% in the last 4 years. And National Commission of Agriculture recommended that indigenous milk products should be produced on large scale by organized sector, improving their packaging and all. Domestic milk production 400 million liters per day. The milk consumption in production area 192 million liters, that is 48%. And this I have also shown you in graph. Surplus, this milk production goes into two directions. One is organized sector and other is unorganized sector. This is 71%. So this is the key factor we have to focus. And further, cooperative sector is 57% and private sector is 43%. So before February 20, milk surplus countries such as New Zealand and Australia, which were compelled to find market for their 93% and 25% of production, respectively, due to limited domestic consumption, but scenario has been changed after February 2020. So India is really a milk sufficient country and also surplus. So India milk consumption has declined 25 to 30% over the last month because of closure of hotels, restaurants, and roadside tea stall amid a national-wide lockdown. The decline in consumption has resulted in a 5 to 7 rupees per liter, or that is 25% decline in the realization of dairy farmers. So household consumption contributes nearby 25 to 30% of India's overall milk usage. Household consumption of ghee, butter, milk has increased as most people are home amid the ongoing countrywide lockdown. Prices of milk derivatives like skim milk powder, SMP, have also crashed because of little export. SMP prices in the domestic markets have declined to 230 per kg from 310 to 320 per kg about a month ago. In the international market, SMP prices also slipped up to $2,500 ton as a 200 a ton. International dairies would prefer not to come to India as Indian dairy processing companies would have enough SMP and it will be surplus for next year. COVID-19 impact will be prolonged and will stretch up to November 20. Most of the cooperatives and privates will not be in a position to make SMP for storage due to old stock, and same will carry forward. So SMP market will be badly affected. Fresh investment on capex will be low in the dairy sector due to declining sales. Hotel, restaurants and cafe HoReCa market has already been affected due to the lockdown, unavailability of working staff, and consumers migrated from urban to rural. Hospitality and tourism is badly affected. It will have direct impact on the HoReCa business. Ice cream market is again a really problem in the India, was expected to grow with CAGR 17.3% from 2016 to 21. The country's approximately 10,000 crore ice cream industry is currently starting at two major challenges. First is the demand slowdown during the peak season, and the second is the financial burden over the lockdown. All the local ice cream players which operates in the summer season only, its entire business is going to hamper completely. Products which help to improve immune system will take the market forward. Milk and milk products, that is curd, charch, paneer, cheese, etc., would be high in demand. We can also expect opportunity in high shelf-life products, USG products, milk, lassi, charch, and ready-to-eat products. Companies that will produce high quality product with norms will have the better future because consumers will be more health conscious. That is, move with certified products, high awareness level amid COVID-19. Consumer will be lesser inclined towards loose milk products, which are found unhygienic, leads to reduction in the immune system. An organized dairy sector has huge opportunity to increase its share as preference towards packaged and hygiene would increase. Market status will be back on track on non-human touch products with certification from relevant authorities. In the current market scenario, innovation would be the key in all respects of business. Innovation in products, manufacturing, processes, business models, human resources, sales, etc. will lead us forward. COVID-19 has already pushed us to work from home and utilize technical tools, that is equal to video conferencing, to interact with the team members, which is currently expensive and time consuming. New sales channel need to be explored. Preference would be to connect directly with consumers. And again, e-commerce is going to have more acceptance from consumers. And just I want to brief about my Ananda Foundation activities, what we are doing. Ananda Foundation provides technical training like artificial insemination, teal milk production, animal health care, infertility camps, nutrition, livelihood, women empowerment, hygiene stations, and community mobilization. AI, veterinary doctors and other employees take care of animals' breed, feed, and health management. Other activities are livestock, manure, agriculture, green fodder, clean water, rural marketing, and sanitary napkin distribution. These we are doing in Ananda Foundation. Ananda Foundation, Social Responsibility, COVID-19. Ananda Foundation, with support of police staff, distributed food materials in 40 districts of UP. All conducted free animal checkup due to the lockdown period. These are some pics. And at the last of my slide, I want to just say that the ultimate is nature. If somebody think that the person or the country or the organization can do or think beyond the nature, nature will surely give us big impact. So this Corona COVID-19 has given us a big lesson. Thank you, Anand Karu. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir, for your presentation and interesting insights. I would now request Mr. Vishvas Chitale to come in and please share his views.
Yeah. Just give me a second. Yeah. I think you're able to hear me loud and clear, right?
Right, sir. And rest of the speakers can mute themselves, please.
Sure. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Okay. So are you able to see me and you're able to see my screen as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this seminar. And I'm going to be very brief, about 5 slides, not more than that. I'm going to talk about, first of all, the supply chain issues related with permits and materials which is coming, because we are into typically 3 districts of Maharashtra, and we need to carry goods and materials and milk and people from 3 districts. And now with the current scenario, it has become very difficult to get the people, because intra-district permissions are very difficult to get. Authorities are just denying. So something should be done immediately. Otherwise, we will not able to procure the milk and process the milk in the districts. So immediately, government should take action on personnel involved in procurement should be given permits. Transport support staff, plant employees, they should be given permits immediately. One of the biggest issue which is happening is that the time of distribution of milk is a real issue, and because the hours of time, hours of distributions on depending upon the which zones you are really restricted. So you are getting 2 hours early morning. It is very difficult. Police are filing cases on the distribution employees. So I think whatever the distribution which we are doing 60-70%, which will go down to 30% if this continues, if the lockdown continues and more hot zones will appear. So these are the issues which are related to supply chain. Then in terms of institutional sales, they have been dropped by 95%. The grocery shops are not yet open, so government should allow grocery shop to open full day, so people will able to have access to the grocery shop throughout the day, and they can maintain the social distances, because there will be no rush there. So they should be allowed at least 12 hours a day to avoid crowding and panic buying. Very recently, NABARD has allocated 25,000 crore for the milk farmers to purchase animals and all this thing. So this particular category, all categories of milk farmers should be allowed for the buying of the animals. Right now, it is only for certain categories of holders. In terms of factories, government should allow PF relaxation to all the dairy processing industry for at least 3 months. So otherwise, we will not able to sustain it. Now, in terms of the major issue, what I feel is that which we need to highlight is there is a 12% GST on ghee, butter, and flavor milk, and that needs to be reduced down to 5%. And vegetable oil is having less GST compared to the ghee. So if you want to increase the consumption, then government should proactively reduce the GST from 12% to 5%. Then one of the major issue with the dairy industry on GST, which has not been highlighted, is that we don't get any input credit on milk, because the dairy processors milk for us, company like us, we into more of a distribution of liquid milk, so we don't get any GST refunds. So I think if we get the input credit on all GST product, that will help the positions. And in terms of distribution expenses, there is a 18% GST, so that also needs to be looked after. Now liquid milk sales has been dropped approximately by 30%, now stabilized, and product are still standstill. We have to convert skim milk into milk powder, so there could be a surplus in the country. But what I feel is that with the current trends of reduction in milk and business positions abroad, I don't think there'll be much problem with the surpluses. And my feeling is that all that surpluses, if we have a holding power, we will get good rates. So we need to support farmers, because if we don't support farmers and give them good rates, it's not like they are not like taps where whenever you want and you give more milk, they will give you milk. It is not the case. So we need to help them, and we need to support them. Otherwise, in next season, we will have definitely more issues. To stabilize the prices of procurement, I think it will be prudent if government gives 5 litre subsidies to us. There's a very big issue with the distribution that under section 48(3), you are not allowed to take more than 20,000 cash from the distribution partners like kirana and store owners. So there has to be, we need to recommend to government that under rule 6DD, at least for next 3 months, they should allow us to do that kind of transaction. And in terms of now COVID fund, working capital loan should be given. Right now they have announced certain concessions, but these concessions should be waived, and we should get 0% interest loan, because we have to stock all that powder. So that is my recommendation. Now, in terms of state of Maharashtra, we procure about all Maharashtra procure about 14 million liters of milk per day, out of which 6 million liters of milk sold as a liquid milk, and 6 million liters of milk is converted into powder. Right now, 1.5 million liters of milk is used to make products such as curd, shrikhand, and lassi. Now, with this scenario, if we have about 2.5 million liters of excess milk in Maharashtra today, so which is getting converted into products. So basically into SMP. So if the government gives, and we want to sustain milk rates at about rupees 29, then government should give us 5 rupee subsidy. So in short, these are my submission to the panel. Now, in terms of health and hygiene, because we get about 800 employees coming every day, so the relaxation in terms of personal hygiene, and in terms of the new laws which have came, they are very, very strict. And I think in a dairy industry is very, very difficult, because you cannot maintain distances in the plant floors. It's very difficult. And being an essential industry, we are trying to people are risking their lives and coming to factories and helping the community. So in that scenario, government should relax these things and help community and workers in a such a way that they get encouraged to work in the factories. We are trying to follow norms which are given by MHA, and what I feel is that we are taking every day 3 times temperature, recording them, teaching them hygiene rules, given them alcohol swabs and everything. But still there is a chance that we will have somebody comes and go into system, the whole factory will be shut down or locked down. So it's a great risk which we are playing. So in that scenario, I think panelists should recommend. I think this is from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Kuldeep, sir, would you like to ask anything to both our speakers? The first.
Yes, I think both of them have covered, the current scenario very well. And just I have two brief comments on Dixit ji and Chitle ji. Most of us are considering that it is only the working capital part, or is it some kind of subsidy of one form or the other which is needed by the industry. But they have raised a very, very pertinent question related to the food safety norms which are being asked by the regulator, let's say, in this COVID times. I'm really touched by the depth of thought given by Dixit ji on having some kind of, in future, having some kind of certification on food products for untouched by hands. I think we will try to see that this particular thing gets implemented. And Chitle Sahab, you are rightly saying in terms of that the current COVID rules of social distancing in a plant. I was talking to someone in the ice cream plant the other day, and they have got 12 lines of production. And they said that if we follow the rules, under no circumstance, we will be able to make use of more than 6 lines, because the kind of condition which prevails. So definitely on one side, we have a pressure of excess milk and we have to convert it into products. We have pressure of labor also. And simultaneously, these conditions, the I would rather say good manufacturing practices condition, somewhere they should not become a kind of roadblock, for making use of that excess milk. Thank you very much for these insights. Probably, Prachi, we can move forward and then we will sum up the things. Prachi, you are mute. Prachi, I think you are on mute. Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
yes. Sorry for that. Now I would request Mr. Rajesh Lele to please share his views.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody, all panelists and the participants. I will touch upon the procurement side of the dairy industry. If we go back about a year ago, April 2019, things were very different. That milk, the rates were going up and up. Milk was getting less, and this continued till February this year. Rates of milk touched such a level that nobody expected. Then in March, somewhere mid-March, things started changing. Of course, milk also started growing, and suddenly this issue of COVID and lockdown, which came as a big surprise or a big shock to the industry, as Vishvas ji explained, that in Maharashtra, suddenly about 2.5 million, which is around 25 lakh liter milk, became surplus practically overnight, because markets were shut down within 24 hours and plants were flooded with milk, and there was for some time there was a situation of chaos, and nobody knew how to handle everything. But thanks to all these plants, especially in Maharashtra, all cooperatives and privates, they coordinated this very well among themselves. And within a week's time, situation came under control. There were some rejections of milk, some holidays for first 1 week or so. But from April onwards, there is no rejection of milk because everybody then decided that uh, purchasing milk is prime important for the farmer. Farmer doesn't have any other option than to sell his milk for his livelihood, and we cannot put his livelihood in danger. So we have to purchase the milk. We have to pay the farmers in time. Otherwise, the cycle will be completely disturbed. And as we know, that if this cycle gets disturbed in the livestock sector, it takes one season or even a year to get back to normalcy. So all the plants in Maharashtra coordinated, and even government of Maharashtra pitched in, and they assured, and they have already started purchasing some milk from cooperatives and converting into powder. As explained earlier, Maharashtra, all plants put together are producing about 700 to 800 metric tons of powder every day, which is more than the double which was happening earlier, say a month ago. In this situation, primary objective of everybody should be to keep the ball rolling, to continue purchase of milk, and that is where the price correction has happened to certain extent, which was inevitable because there is no guarantee, there is no support from government as such for handling so much of milk. Whatever is being handled by even cooperatives, by privates, being converted into primarily commodities like butter and skim milk powder, is all on the risk of the plants, the processors. And processors don't know that this powder, which is piling up almost 700 tons, means about 20,000 tons of powder has been produced in last 1 month only in Maharashtra. This quantity countrywide must be in lakh tons. So what is going to happen when this powder is going to get sold out, consumed? So nobody knows. So everybody is taking extra care and balancing between the pricing with farmers, so that farmer also is not under great distress. Farmer also should be able to run his farm. At the same time, the risk is minimized with the processors. So this is the situation which we see in Maharashtra, that now things have stabilized. The milk production is still continuing at ground level, at grassroots level. Production has not dropped, but with summer approaching, there will be some drop in the production, which will also ease out the situation a little. This is the perspective of milk volume, milk handling. If we go back to the backward integration, there are a lot of disruptions. Last 1 month, most of the places, the artificial insemination activities and vaccination activities are primarily in Maharashtra handled by a huge network of state government, are almost paralyzed, and these activities are not happening. Slowly, post 20th April, things have started opening up. But last 1 month, all these activities, barring some private and cooperative organizations who have their own network of artificial insemination, cattle feed supply, and extension activities, everywhere else things were almost at standstill. So this we don't know. There are different views, but a general view is this is going to impact the nutritional requirements of the cow, and with also prices coming down, and it appears that these prices will continue for few months. They will not quickly go up. because market is not going to pick up within a couple of months. Milk availability will always be there, and prices will remain at this level, and that is impacting the feeding pattern of the cows, especially compound cattle feed, because the prices of compound cattle feed are still up, they are not going down, and this feeding pattern will impact the productivity, not only productivity but also the calving pattern in coming months, and it is expected that there will be some pressure, although it will not be too bad as we have experienced in the periods of droughts, but it will have some impact, and that we have to ensure, especially organized sector, has to ensure and strike a very good balance between the pricing, between the production and milk uh, milk take up. That is, they should continue purchasing milk. They should continue supporting farmers. We can go to the government. We can go to state government, like suggested by Vishwas ji. But I think government machinery, government itself is so much under pressure of spending money for many other priorities. So it will be little difficult for government. We can pursue that, but we should not depend on government. And this is how we should take it forward. My perspective is it will take 6 to 8 months for the things to get back to normal, and by next year things will be back to normal. We are expecting good monsoon in the country this year. That though these are the primary estimates forecast. So with good monsoon, things will improve, and I definitely see a good future, because as explained by earlier panelist, that the consumption pattern is going to change in a positive way for dairy, and we can take this opportunity definitely, and I I would close my views at this point. Thank you.
Prachi, you are moved.
Thank you, Rajesh sir. Now I would request Nitin sir to please share his views.
Good afternoon and namaskar, everyone. It's a pleasure meeting you all, sitting at home for almost over a month now. So it's like sitting inside a den and not meeting everyone. So it's a good opportunity to meet the industry. Thank you, Prachi and Kuldeep ji, for giving this opportunity. I will give a short introduction of myself. We are into feed manufacturing only dairy feeds with 3 plants, all based in Maharashtra, in Satara, Baramati, and Srirampur, and manufacturing about 1500 tons per day of cattle feed. Now, since what the problems we are facing presently is, though we are into essential commodity, we have been allowed to run our industry, but we had to take some permissions from the government, which took some time. But now we are running full scale, and some transport issues are there. Some raw material trucks are not coming, but now it's almost sorted out, and the flow of feed is smooth in the market. And that's what I feel everyone in the industry is also facing like us. Regarding milk and feeds connection. We have been, now farmers and milk industry has been facing a peculiar situation for last 3-4 years. Milk prices are lower and feed prices have been steadily rising with the inflation. And fortunately for feed industry, last year the feed prices have increased quite well, and the growth in feed production has been very substantial. And feed prices have also increased, but not proportionate to the milk prices. So I think farmers were quite happy, and feed industry was also quite happy, and we could make up some bad patch which we had earlier 2 years. Since April, the starting of this year, due to coronavirus, now feed sales we are seeing as slightly dropping. Initially, the problem was of transportation and labor issues, raw material availability. And now since it is available, we are seeing that supply slowly, demand is slowly coming down. I relate it to the prices of milk, and the payment of milk by milk producers, milk collectors are also slowing down. This could be one of the reasons why feed sales are slowly going down. In future also, in the next 6 months, as my earlier learned panelists have said, I don't see much increase in milk prices or demand. But maybe after 6 months, things will slowly start improving. As we all know that most of our milk, whatever is produced in Maharashtra, that is not locally consumed. Some of it goes into SMP production and some goes outside the state. Now, SMP export will not happen. As we can see internationally also, prices are very low. In future also, I don't see that the prices will be quite as or will improve, because everyone probably has surplus milk powder because of demand drop. And only hope is that if because of the summer and lean season, if other states buy milk from Maharashtra, then I see the prices will remain steady and we can pass this bad patch of 6 months. And hopefully thereafter things will improve, because the consumption presently, as we can see, everything is closed down. So because of lower consumption, milk prices are also lower, and industry also is, milk industry is also, I think funds are stuck up in SMP stocking. Regarding recommendations to the government, we all know that 2 days back, the government has promised that they will process 4 million liters of milk, if I'm correct, in next to, am I correct? Let me please, the milk industry can correct me. And they'll be spending 127 crore for converting excess milk into powder.
Yeah, it was 40 million liters. Yeah.
40 million. So it's not 4 million, it's 40 million. So that will probably help the industry if it works out that way. And another addition would be if government can start supplying milk to the school Shalaya Ahar Yojana that we call in Maharashtra. If milk goes in that system, the surplus milk will be well consumed and will increase the health of the nation also. So that is another recommendation I would like to give. As far as feed industry is concerned, I think we have to now come to the terms that this will be the new normal hereafter. We should not expect that things will drastically improve, or we'll see very good times once the lockout is over. For everything to come back to normal, it may take at least 6 months. We have to adjust to the new living standards, new living life, way of living, that distancing and all these issues. We'll have to come to terms of that. And this will be the new normal, I think. We will be, since we are getting time now, because of the slowdown, think of developing new products, helping farmers, developing our organization, training our people. Fortunately, now in our MIDC, very few industries are working. Most of them are closed. At least we are fortunate that we are working as compared to others. We are able to pay the salaries of our people, though at lower rate, at lower margins, sometimes minus also. But we are fortunate that we are in an industry which at least we are running today. And we should be fortunate that we are in this place, because no one has predicted this corona issue will come, and we have to accept things as they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Kuldeep sir, would you like to add something to that?
I think both of them have covered the backward integration part very well, and I liked Lele sir mentioning about that we should not look or bank on the subsidy to a large extent, like most of the processors have done in Maharashtra. I would like that in other parts of the country also similar kind of things happen. And I am fully in line with what Lele sir is mentioning about, though for what Nitin sir is mentioning about. And we have some interesting question for Nitin sir. We'll be taking it up in the question answer session. Yeah, please. Now I think we must invite Torsten. Yeah.
Yes. So now, would you please share your views, Torsten?
Yes. First of all, thanks a lot for joining this session, learning what's happening in your country, and you have my deep respect and gratitude for all the hard work you are doing, your people in the field are doing, and how you handle that. And I'm very, very impressed how you have done that. In developed countries like ours, things are difficult, but I think manageable. But what you are doing at the moment, I think, is incredible. So well done, keep your heads up, and I wish you all the best for the future. I think that's most important. So now I'd like to share with you some of the international perspective, let's see. So I assume you all see my screen now?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Good. So it's about opportunities of the COVID. Well, as I took it up from the opportunity post. I think that whenever we touch this problem right now, we have two stages. The first one is we need to manage and do the best in the current crisis, and then we need to look out at the opportunities of the world after. And we should not mix the two discussions. So I focus at the moment my discussion on the first part of that. I would like to briefly introduce IFCN. I would like to talk about world milk prices, national prices, and then give a little bit guidance on the COVID crisis drivers, impacts, and potential tools. I think a lot of you know that IFCN, I founded this organization 20 years ago out of my PhD. And the mission is to help people to make better decisions in the dairy world with comparable data, knowledge, and inspiration. And we have the pillar of researchers around the world, companies around the world, and the team in Kiel. And I think now the year 2013, we run once a year workshop, mostly in India. This year, probably we might not be able to do that, but let's see. But I've been the first time in India 2003, and I'm observing what you are doing, and I'm congratulations to the fantastic growth story which you have put together. So now let's have a look on the world milk price. What I put up here is a slide which we call the world milk price in US dollar per 100 kg milk, 4% fat and 3% protein, and it's derived based on the commodity values of the traded product, skim milk powder, butter, cheese and whey, and whole milk powder. And you see the volatility of these prices over a 14-year period. And basically, we had different levels. We had the very low level of $25, then we had a level of $40 for some time. And now we have somehow moved the level down to 35 US dollar per 100 kg milk. And we had basically two roller coaster scenario times, 2007 to 2010 and 2013 to 2016. So these are massive price volatilities. And the key driver for these price cycles is usually that supply is reacting with a time lag to the milk price signals. So it takes a while from a price lowering to lower production, and it takes time from increasing milk prices to activate supply. And interestingly, this red line is affecting milk price in every country. And you might ask now what happens, well, how has Germany followed the red line? And whenever you are a net exporting country like Germany with a structured milk surplus of 15%, maybe comparable to the situation in Maharashtra, you are much more likely to follow the commodity prices. And right now, our milk prices are still good. And on that one, the last numbers are the March numbers in here. So, and I put in all the other countries. So red world market price and blue is the in-country price. And interestingly, most countries, Brazil, Russia, and they are following the red line. And we did once in a while a study also in India that there's a connection between the red line and your milk price payout price. The only country which has been fully deviating and has a certain stability in these crazy times is China, on the milk price of around almost double the value than the world market price. So I converted now our red line, the world market price, into rupees. So you see the milk price per rupee, of course, converted with the exchange rate. And if I got it right, that we had milk prices of 25 rupees, we went up to 32 rupees, and now we are somehow on a level of 25 rupees back. Interestingly, this increase of the EU milk price towards the 32 rupees is almost fully backed up with the world market price development and the exchange rate development in your country. So now let's have a look how this corona crisis and how a global crisis will affect you, because we might see price lows like we have seen in the previous crisis, 2009 and 2016. So in that case, the world milk price plus the tariff usually puts a ceiling on national milk prices. And I just put an example in. If you have a world milk price of around 15 rupees and you add a 40% tariff on it, imported product might enter the market at around 21 rupees. If you have an example that we stabilize the world prices at around $25 per kg of milk and put a 40% tariff on, import product might become competitive at the internal milk price of 25 rupees. So even though your country is not that strong connected to the world market, but there are crisis forces. So now the question is, what are the key drivers now in this COVID crisis? At the moment, we hear a lot of stories. We don't have a lot of data, so we need to work with drivers and qualitative judgments at the moment. So the first driver you all have experienced is panic buying and has a green arrow, so that means has a price upward trend. Then we have the balance of food service demand drop and increasing retail sales. And this is negative in your country. This is negative, especially in the United States, and is becoming even more negative the less the processors are flexible to move from retail product, from food service product to retail product. Then supply chain disruption. Yes, you mentioned a lot on the feed side, AI side, cattle side. At the moment, in the countries that I've not seen these drivers as that big. Then there's stock building of butter and powders in food companies, and also in your companies, so that's stabilizing the price. And a lot of people are probably not have the driver 5 in mind, because we move in a whole economic recession, lower oil prices, lower incomes of people, and lower milk demand growth. So this is probably the biggest driver of the COVID crisis, which is not fully there yet. Even though if the plants are running and everything is there, but if the people don't have the money to buy the product, that will be the issue. Then the point 6 is all the policies which we will have probably on supply reduction and stocks that will stabilize the market. But the biggest thing that brings stabilizing the whole market is if we adjust milk supply, drop to the usually based to lower milk prices, but that takes time. Every country is in different specific phases of this crisis in different areas and different volume of impact. And we recommend to use this slide to somehow maneuver. This things looks different in Maharashtra than Punjab, etc., etc. So then what we are doing now, every week we do a kind of a webinar, 30 minutes each Monday for our companies, and we put the world market price in here, and we put the future markets in, which gives a very simple picture saying what are the future markets perceiving for the rest of the year 2020. And you see a dramatic drop in world milk prices towards a level of $25 per 100 kg milk. But the future markets are not fully aligned. The New Zealand NZX, these are the New Zealand prices. European market is green, and the US market is in blue. This is a little bit of an anomaly, but we all expect that the New Zealand future prices probably will follow the European and the US prices. Interestingly, all these markets tell that we are in end of 2021 back on a normal level, and that we have a kind of V-shape, a very short crisis, which we are from the IFCN side doubt whether that's the case. We have put the Rabobank forecast in. They revised theirs from 17th of March to 30th of April. So they had a long good price for 2020 and mid of March, and they completely revised their forecast to a milk price of 25 rupees. So what is our view on that one? We think that the lower milk demand growth, which is coming due to a recession, seem to be underestimated. So we will probably see price lows in a range like 2009 or 2016. So we'll move to the $20 prices, where I'm not sure how strong the tariff protection of India will hold imports back. That need to be looked at. And the point is, we recommend everyone to prepare for a price roller coaster time, which now starts with a downswing and has an upswing later on, and probably a price cycle of around 3 years. So there might be, again, maybe in the future, very high world market prices, export ban of product to India. And so the policy toolbox will be there. And once again, the biggest challenge right now to estimate is the 2020 demand growth. Usually that is 20 million tons, so the world milk demand, the volume of the annual production of New Zealand. Usually that's also the supply growth. And if you don't have the income for the people, and we move from 20 million demand growth to 10, and we have a 10 million ton surplus. And I think this is currently the production of Punjab, to give you a little bit of a reference. The other thing is that open is on the policy box, and we have also developed a slide defining dairy crisis management tools. And there's always the option one is to sit and wait and apply existing tools. So in that case, you allow market forces to balance out supply and demand. This is the case either if you don't want to do anything, or if you can't agree to do anything. So you are in that scenario, which is pretty important. The other scenario is that you start a new program, and at the moment the big question is by whom shall it be done? And I see that your processors at the moment in India take wire the stock building, a tremendous load and action on that, which is very, very good. Government can do it, consumers can do it, NGOs can do it, farmers can do it, different people can do something, and then we have different programs. We can build stocks, which your government has slightly started and you are doing already now. And there's policies on reduced supply, either by processors, by governments, with compensation, without compensation. People talk now about introducing milk quotas, etc., to align supply to demand. Then there are programs, and I think was mentioned also in this discussion, to stimulate demand with food aid programs, export subsidies, subsidies to bakery, calf feeding, whatever programs are there. And the last point is that companies or countries start programs, especially targeting the farmers on subsidies per farm, income support, loan guarantees, cheap loans, advisory help, etc., because whatever price swing you have in the supply chain, the biggest risk usually is handled by the farmers. And interesting, you might have heard now about some programs. So US has initiated a new program building massive stocks of dairy on the one side, and the other side provide an income. And Mr. Chitale, you mentioned the 5 rupees per kg of milk as a subsidy. I think the Americans have introduced that program, and you get it for a farm up to a herd size of 300 cows. So they have developed a little bit of an income support scheme, which is taking care of about 90% of their farms, which they define the smaller farms in that system. So that's on my side. If you need any global update, connect on LinkedIn or send us an email. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Torsten. So looking at the time constraint, Kuldeep sir, I would request you to add this in your concluding remarks, like whatever points you would like to mention.
Sure,
So
I'll do that.
now coming to the question and answers. My first question is for Mr. Vishvas Chitale and Mr. Dixit. Post-COVID, the demand of immunity-boosting foods will be high. Dairy offers a great opportunities in this segment. So what kind of dairy products do you anticipate to be emerging for masses post-COVID-19 in the low-cost segments? And before giving it to you, I would just request to all my speakers to look at the time constraint and please share your views in a minute or so. Thank you. Chitale sir, please.
I think basically the fermented milk products like curd and Shrikhand are already there in the Indian market, and definitely, charge also is there, and definitely that market will grow up. And being a summer season, these products are in demand. So it's the major issue is that how much long this issue will prolong. So it all depends upon that. So already there are products which are which can boost the immunity, and they have the bacteria which will improve the gut immunity. So I don't think there is any other thing other than that is required, like probiotic curd and all that. It's already there. So there is no need of reinventing. It's already there. We need to properly pitch it.
Okay, and Dixit ji?
Yeah, same. I'm also there that we should promote these fermented products because the live bacteria is there to make a healthy gut.
Okay, thank you, sir. So my next question is for Mr. Mane and Mr. Lele. Do you foresee challenges in animal health, breeding in the near future which may arise due to the poor handling and feeding of animals during this period? Sir, you need to unmute yourself. Just a sec.
If I may answer Lele ji first.
Yeah, I will.
I don't foresee that there will be any serious issues of animal health, at least in Maharashtra, this is quite a progressive rate, and farmers are quite conscious about the health of animals, and feed availability has not been a serious issue during the lockdown period. So I don't see it will have any future present effect. But in future, if the milk prices are lower, so normally tendency is there for farmers to feed less cattle feed, and that will affect the milk which will come in future, as it has happened in last 2 years because of the lower milk prices. People probably the cattle population went down, and feed also people were feeding less. So we saw that milk production was reduced and as compared to demand. And now last year people had started picking up, and unfortunately this situation has come in. So if this stretches for a long period, it may affect, but presently I don't see serious problem. Lele ji.
Yeah, I agree with Manisa that this is a temporary phase. There will be some short-term disruption in this situation, but the prices are going to not. I mean, prices are going to hold at the current level of around 25 around, and they will not go so much below that level. And then farmers will adjust, because as he said that there are progressive farmers in Maharashtra, in this part of the state. They are quite aware about the health of the animal, and they will take care. They will take care. Companies are supporting them. We are already in touch with 50,000 farmers, and we are giving necessary advice to them. So it will not happen in a. It will not have a big impact on in long run. Short run, yes, we may experience some impact.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Torsten. What do you suggest to the Indian dairy farmers on the sustainable dairy farm structure in post-COVID-19 times in terms of size of herd and feeding practices? And does India stand any chance for large integrated farms in the post-COVID era?
You're muted.
So the sustainable dairy farming model, right? That is the question.
Yes.
We have been touching that topic on a number of workshops, and the key argument there was that you have the household farms, the family farms, and the business farms. The business farms are the corporate farming models. And so far, we all believe that the family farming model moving upwards from the household farming model is probably the most sustainable. And the key issue, the challenge is, once you have rising rural salaries, the household farming model becomes less attractive for people, and if they have a job alternative. So this, I think, is still the case. Now, what happens with COVID-19, if rural salaries drop, non-agricultural employment opportunities drop, then the household model becomes an attractive alternative compared to a more risky investment in larger farms. So that's a short answer. My recommendation is to closely monitor and watch rural wages, because that gives a good guidance into the farming system from the farm size side. I have not touched the farming system in the yield side. That's probably takes too much time at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And now over to you, Kuldeep, sir, for to take some of the live questions.
Yeah. I think most of the questions have been asked in the area of value-added products, as I can see, linked to the immunity boosters in those categories, in fermented milk products. And one more thing, I think the audience has felt, and rightly felt, that the need for long shelf life products, because in this time of COVID, we have seen that there has been an upsurge in the demands for, and very high level of panic buying for aseptic milk, dairy whiteners, and those kind of products. So I think most of these questions got answered by Chitale sir and Dixit sir. that way. And then there is one question which I would like Nitin ji to respond to, that in post-COVID time, would there be any requirement of developing some optimum cost or low cost recipe for feed and nutrition for animal? So if you can just quickly give your kind of take on it.
You mean the need of a low cost, or
yes, low cost, some kind of maybe disruption in the ingredients, or some kind of recipes, like balanced ration we have. So most of the time the balanced ration is more on the productivity side, but shall we start looking at cost side also? Would COVID take us into that direction?
No, sir. I don't think so. There will be any such formula or shortcuts available, because all along the way we have seen that there have been famines and good rainfall and up prices, low prices. So there has been always demand for lower quality feed. But we have seen that every year farmers have been upgrading themselves and buying higher and higher quality of feed. So
Okay.
we see that people are maturing, and there will be no need for lower quality feed. At this stage also, most of our farmers are buying the best quality feed that we are making, the higher quality one and higher priced one, today also.
Perfect. So in that particular case, it might be, this question might have come out of impulse because of the kind of situation we are passing by. Good. So that is not a point of worry. And then there is a direct question to me and the panelists talking about what was the reason for GST, higher GST, let's say for ghee. And whereas earlier it was only 5% during wet times all across. I think right now again we have started to work with the government and people like Chitale sir, Dixit sir, and through other bodies like IDA and CII, this thing is reaching to the government on reducing this high GST on ghee and butter. If we look, then it was not under VAT in 2017 when GST was launched. Let's say in South, it was 14.5%, if I'm not wrong, in Tamil Nadu that way, in AP region in particular. So now AP has become Telangana, AP, both the states are there. So when it became 12%, so there was an increase from 5 to 12% in North, but in South it was a reduction of 2.5%. But now the situation has changed a little bit. The thing is that India has become a common market, I would rather say. The product flow is very much there. And there are some other issues related to, let's say, this large parity amounting to 50-60 rupees per kg of ghee, which is equivalent to 3 to 4 rupees per liter of milk, which can be easily given to the farmers. So now there is a great need. And I'll be just sharing with you what recently has occurred. Just yesterday, we have received some information. Then there are some questions, again, immunity and long shelf life product and on the type of feed. I think, yes, for most of the questions we have got answers from the panelists, and whatever questions are left, we will be replying back to all of them. And now, as a conclusion, I think it was really a very good session and deliberation by all the panelists, and everyone was so crisp and clear with their thoughts, and while sharing, I didn't find any kind of inhibition. So if we look at today's scenario, so in next 2 minutes, I would just like to conclude from the perspective of that what COVID has given to us till date. So till date, we are considering that there are a couple of learnings, particularly on food safety, which I discussed with Dixit ji and Chitale sir. Both of them mentioned this also. So now it has become much more stringent. And supply chain is another thing, where the role of, the people who are making it direct to home delivery kind of a thing. And the most important thing is that there has been a kind of feeling that there is a switching of consumerism from, let's say, loose to packed version of dairy products. And another learning which is coming, as Lele sir has mentioned, that since April, things have stabilized. Yes, there was a goof up earlier, immediately after the curfew, let's say 22nd of March was the curfew, Janta curfew. A few states started extended this curfew on 23rd, and by 24th midnight, the whole country went into lockdown. There was a very short period, and all the issues of permits and other things might have occurred because there was very less time for communication. And yes, this challenge was there because we understand that it is unprecedented from the government perspective also. Both the police and the local authorities were not co-terminus with what government actually mandated for the essential supplies. But now things have started to streamline. And the best part is, let's say, if we look at, if you look at the last year kind of average, then it was close to the whole of cooperative sector in India was collecting close to 50 million liters of milk per day. And out of that 50 million, it was being done with around 190,000 farmer VLCs, and with 1.68 crore farmers, around 16.8 crore million farmers. You can for Torsten help, you can understand it in millions. So the same kind of average has been achieved in April. So the average for whatever the average collection of cooperative on per day basis, close to 50 million, which was there in January, it has been achieved back in April. Number one. Number two, out of this 50 million, close to 35 million liters of milk was being sold as liquid milk. And yes, there has been a drop in that. So against that 35 million, as on April, the cooperatives are able to achieve a level of 30 million liters of sale per day in liquid milk. And this way we can very clearly, we can see that there is a gap of, let's say, 5 million liters of milk per day, which the cooperatives have got as an excess milk, which they are converting. Now, so with this kind of thing, things are coming back to normal, but I fully agree with Chitale sir that the bigger question is that for how long this would stay. Because if it has to finish on 3rd May, then we will have one picture. And then as Torsten all the time, profess a lot of scenario planning. So in that particular case, we may develop different kind of scenarios if this thing extends. But yes, there have been some suggestions because the key problem is still with the stocks. Dairies are making stocks, but the market where these stocks are being traded are closed. Right now, not any trading is taking place at most of these places. So what is to be done? So the options which have been provided to the government in terms of that, how to clear up the stock. So one thing is that Maharashtra is making their own pool of stocks of, let's say, SMP and butter maybe. But on the contrary, there are other options also. For example, we have said that if you look at India, then we have a BPL population of close to 26 crores, mean 260 million. So even if suppose out of that 260 million, we can select, let's say, the bottommost 5 million, 50 million population. And if suppose we give 1 kg of milk powder on per month basis under PDS, it will account to 50,000 metric ton of powder, which will be amounting close to 1,500 crore rupees for the government. And under different budgets, government has these kind of funds. But the bigger thing to be seen from Indian context is that on nutrition front, the country needs some kind of support. So when we talk of midday meal, so we have got close to 12 million kids registered in around 1.26 million schools. And even if suppose 1 kg of powder per kid per month for 8 months is given, considering 8 months to be period of school, which it means close to 100,000 metric ton of powder. Why all the time I am talking about powder? So there are two ways only. One, to find some logical ways where this powder, some pipeline where this powder could be utilized. That is one way. The second way is where, from nutrition aspect or from other aspect, or let's say from working capital support or some interest subvention schemes, the processor gets supported. As the processors in today's panel are not very much in favor of taking the subsidy, I think if government find avenues where, there could be a win-win situation for everyone, for processor, for kids, for people under BPL, as well as at the end of the day for the farmer, I think that kind of thought should be appreciated, and I think we should move in that direction. So I would like to conclude with 2-3 things which have occurred. Number one, bodies like CII and NDDB has already suggested to the government on reduction of GST on ghee and butter. And second thing is on using, let us say, powder in the form of PDS. Now, whether that would be WMP or dairy whitener or what combination it would be. So those kind of suggestions have gone. In order to make this supply chain or the disruptive technology in supply chain, which is IT enabled, NDDB is developing an open source software website along with some app application for the farmers. So in that particular case, even at smaller or larger level, this particular application can be used by them and to meet the future requirements of the consumer. So I think we are moving in the right direction. I pray God that our country should be out of this problem as early as possible. Not only our country, the whole world, where our friends like Torsten are there. And I wish all the best to the dairy industry. And once again, thank all the esteemed panelists for taking out their time and sharing their point of view so candidly. Prachi, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I would like to thank all my panelists for giving us their time, though 2 of them have already gone because they have some other commitments. So to my audience, I would like to mention that you will be receiving the recorded video link of this webinar shortly. And also, if your questions have not been answered, we will be getting back to you with the help of our expert panelists. So thank you so much for all to join us. Thank you.